it's Liz from No Trace. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make these adorable little fabric strawberries. I used Lena Corwin's book, Made by Hand, as the inspiration for this project. This is an awesome book full of a ton of super fun, crafty projects. You don't need this book in order to make this project, but I definitely would recommend it if you want to check out some of the other really cool projects that are in here. These little strawberries are also a really great way to use up teeny tiny bits of thread and fabric as the stuffing. And it's also a great way to use your smaller pieces of fabric for the actual strawberries and the stems. So let's go. I'm going to be using the patterns that are in the back of this book, Made by Hand, but I've actually modified one of the pattern pieces for my little strawberries. So this is the original pattern piece, and then there's a pattern piece for the stem part of the strawberry, but I've actually traced that and made that pattern piece a little bit larger to make the stem a little bit different for my strawberry. Now, if you don't have this book, you can definitely make yourself a star pattern. This star pattern piece, it's about a 2.5 inch star. And then the strawberry is made up of 4 sort of ovals. So those are the basics of the strawberries. I'm going to be using scraps of green fabric for the stem, and then scraps in different shades of pink and purple for the strawberry. Step 1 is to cut out 4 of your strawberry pattern pieces. So I have 4 scraps of fabric lined up nicely with each other, and I'm going to place the strawberry pattern piece right on top and go ahead and trace it out. Once it's traced, I'm going to go ahead and take my scissors and carefully cut through all 4 layers at once to get 4 strawberry panels. It is good to keep track of the top edge and the bottom edge of your strawberry pieces because the top edge is more curved than the bottom edge. Next, I'm going to cut out 2 pieces of my star-shaped strawberry stem, and I'm actually going to cut them both out of this small piece of green fabric. I'm going to fold it with the right sides together and place the strawberry stem on top, trace it out, and cut it. Once all the pattern pieces are cut out, we are ready to start sewing them together. I'm going to sew the strawberry stems with the right sides together with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I am going to make sure to leave an opening on one of the sides of about 3/4 of an inch so I can turn this whole piece right side out. So I'll just get it under my presser foot and just take my time going all the way around. Now we'll start sewing together the strawberry panel pieces, and I'm going to start by sewing just along one curved edge. So these are lined up with the right sides together. I'm going to sew along one curved edge, starting about 3/4 of an inch away from the top, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and go all the way down to the pointed edge, but stopping so that my seam will end right at the center of the bottom rather than going all the way to the end and off the fabric. I want my stitches to end right about there. So I'm going to go ahead and start on this side so it's a little bit easier to see the stitches, and just take my time. I'm going to back stitch at the beginning and go all the way down. Now as I get near my end, I don't want to go all the way off. I want to stop so it stays right in the middle here. And then do a back stitch. So your seam should look like that. Now we'll go ahead and add in another strawberry panel. And I'm going to place it with the right sides together. And I'm going to line it up. And then again, I'm going to start at the more rounded end, about 3/4 of an inch away from the rounded end. And I'm going to go all the way down. And now I'm going to be using my first row of stitches as a guide for where to stop. So I'm going to stop right as I get to that original first line that I sewed. Now I'll grab my 4th panel piece for my strawberry and line it up with this edge and repeat the same process. As you get down near the end of your stitches, make sure that you're not capturing these other layers in your seams. You kind of want to pull this fabric away so that you're only sewing these 2 pieces together. Once that seam is finished, we just need to sew the last 2 panel pieces together in the same way. All right, now we have our 2 pieces with the wrong sides out, and what we want to do next is turn them right side out. In order to turn the strawberry stem right side out, we want to cut off the tips first, and then we want to cut a couple of little snips where the star shape bends in, and this will let the bending happen a little bit more easily on your star. So you want to close to those stitches, but don't cut your stitches. Now we're ready to use our little bitty opening, and you're going to want a chopstick or a pencil to push this little guy right side out. Once our little star is turned right side out, we want to fold in the raw edges that we left open so we could turn this little guy right side out. So just tuck those in. You could do this with the iron if you wanted, but just get it nice and tidy. And then we're going to top stitch all the way around our little strawberry stem. So I'm just doing a little finger press, and this doesn't have to be a perfect star. So I'm just doing a little finger press, and now I'm going to top stitch. Over at the machine, I'm going to go pretty close to the edge and top stitch my little strawberry stem. It can be tricky sewing close to an edge, so there might be times when I'm going to have to pick up my needle and lift my piece because it can get kind of jammed down in there when it's such a tiny piece of fabric. All right, once this little stem is finished, we're going to just trim the loose threads, and we're going to set it aside for now, and we are going to work on the strawberry part. Next, we'll take the strawberry part and trim the loose threads, and then we're going to turn this whole thing right side out, and we're going to save these threads. You can use them as part of the stuffing. So just gently push the strawberry so that it is right side out. Now you can use little bitty scraps of thread and fabric for the stuffing. You could also use actual stuffing like cotton batting or the polyester stuffing. So I'm going to go ahead and use these little bits of thread, and I'm going to cut them so that they will sit a little bit better inside the strawberry. You want to stuff the strawberry so that it's pretty well full, pretty stuffed and fluffy, but you need to be able to fold up at the top, fold this opening, and sew it closed. So don't overstuff it. You still need your about 3/4 inch of fabric to fold over so that we can sew our cute little strawberries at the top. We're going to use a needle and thread to close up the top of the strawberry. So what we want to do is make sure that these fabric, the ends of the strawberry are all folded down towards the center. And then we're going to go ahead and place the needle under a fold. So we've sort of folded the fabric down, and now we're getting the needle in the fold, and just push the knot towards the center. And we're just going to run our needle all along this fold, grabbing about 1/4 inch or a little less than 1/4 inch of fabric as we sew. It's kind of like a running stitch. And then just pull that thread through. And you'll see that as you start to sew, we can kind of pull the opening closed. So once we get this needle all the way through, we'll be able to close up the top part, our strawberry. Once you make it all the way back around to your original knot, you're going to want to tug on the thread and push the fabric towards the inside of the strawberry as you tighten the opening closed. So just keep tugging, and if your fabric starts to come out, just push it back in. And once is pretty well closed, it doesn't have to be perfectly closed. So there's a little opening here, and that is totally fine because we're going to be putting our strawberry stem on top of that. But we want this to be pretty well closed, and then we'll go ahead and create a knot. So just keeping that tension in the thread, go ahead and grab some of the fabric, get the needle under some fabric or a stitch if you see a stitch, and create a loop with your thread, and then get your needle inside the loop and then just tug, okay, to create a little knot. So you can tighten that loop and then pull that thread through. So I'm going to do that again and make another little knot right here. Now that my knot is done, I'm going to push the needle inside the strawberry and then out the side to kind of hide that knot. Just tug tightly and then go ahead and cut that thread. Oop. And then the knot is hidden inside the strawberry. Now we're going to take our little stem, the leafy part of the strawberry, and we're going to be sewing it onto our strawberry. So the way to do that is with a needle and a thread. We're going to want to go ahead and get the needle inside the strawberry towards the center, and then push the needle out a little ways from the center. So I think I pushed it about 1/4 inch out from this center opening, and just get that knot more or less down in there. And now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sewing, again, sort of a running stitch between the strawberry and one layer of the stem. So remember, we used 2 layers, and if you sort of push or massage the stem, you can sort of separate those 2 layers. Now, if you didn't want to do it carefully like this, you could absolutely just go through both layers of the stem and your stitches would show, and you just use a similar thread. But if you don't want your stitches to show, you're going to be placing this sort of centered on top of your strawberry, and you're going to go ahead and get your needle in between these 2 layers and grab a little pinch of fabric there. Pull that needle through and pull the thread, and then just make sure that the stem is more or less sitting where you want it to. And you're gonna kind of hold the stem with one hand and then peek between the layers. So you're grabbing about 1/4 inch of strawberry and pushing the needle through, and then going back up and grabbing about 1/4 inch of stem, but you're trying to just sew through one layer of your leafy stem part. And again, grab 1/4 inch of strawberry or so, pull your thread, and then go back up and grab a little 1/4 inch of stem, and just continue this until you get back to where you started. Okay, so I've made it back to where I started my stitches. I made it all the way around, and my stem is seated and staying on. So now we just create a knot. So go ahead and find that first stitch you created between the layers, get your needle under that first stitch, and just create a simple knot. Create a little loop in your thread and go back through the loop. And you could do a couple knots if you want, or just one, depending on how secure you want this to be. Depending on who's going to be using these, if someone a little bit younger is going to be using these, you're going to want to make sure your stitches are nice and secure. If you've got older kids, or these are just going to be like a cute little decoration somewhere, these don't have to be super secure. And then again, we're going to just hide our tail by pushing our needle towards that center and then back out the side, so that we can hide the tail of our thread and the inside underneath our little leafy thing. So just tug that and snip. And then the strawberry is done. Oh my gosh, these are so cute. If you've made it this far in the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the No Trace channel to get notified about all of our videos. We put out a new video every single week on zero waste sewing, crafting, and lifestyle tips. We also have a zero waste sewing and crafting community over on Facebook. The link is in the description below this video, so head on over there. I'd love to see you in there.